I've got to say that even if I was in the traditional boxing garb with like the big rubber headpiece and the teeth and mouth thing, and like the
if you were a sparring
gloves,
partner,
if I was like fighting somebody that way, I would still die. Like within minutes of entering the ring, even if I was
before even throwing a punch.
If I was fighting fish, I would still probably.
I think first punch and your heart would explode.
Exactly. I think Cyrus would die playing Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
That's true. Versus Glassjaw Joe. But these guys. All right. So this movie's called Knuckle, and this is a documentary that was filmed over 12 years, taking place with the Irish clans, like the Irish gypsies, who get so mad at each other and been warring with each other for so long. And, obviously they can't go shooting each other as much anymore. I mean, like, it's Ireland. There's cops all over the goddamn place these days, thanks to people with more serious issues.
Yeah.
But
right.
So instead, they organize these bare knuckle fist fights versus each other, and on a regular basis, where they go, all right, me and you, I'm fighting for my clan, you're fighting for yours, and we're going to fight until one of us can't fight any longer.
Well, hey, man, you think about the beginning of boxing with the bare knuckles fighting. John Sullivan was the name.
Yeah, they stopped doing that for a reason.
I know.
Yeah, it was fucking crazy. And with this, it's like, okay, there's fighting and there's a lot of inbreeding going on apparently. Because like watching this, I couldn't help but the first thing you hear about is like, I was following this guy who married his cousin, and I'm just like, what? Okay, you got me a cousin. What now? What's this story about? And then it turns into this this whole series. This guy where he was just asked to film a wedding. And somehow he got like interested in some guy who was hanging around in a red T-shirt, and then realized that they asked him after shooting the wedding. They asked this guy, "Hey, do you want to come out and shoot one of our bare knuckle fighting matches with our cousins?" Who we've been having this feud with. Yeah, they're all related, which is insane. But so they go out and they just beat the shit out of each other until somebody says, I've had enough. Yeah. And they constantly do this where I'm like, wow, guys, what's Christmas like over there? Jesus.
This starts back in 1997. You can tell by the quality of film.
Easily.
With the earlier footage, you're like, okay, this guy's carting around like a backpack of equipment to film the shit on video.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he, like you said, he got invited to what they call a traveler wedding. They're like the gypsies in Ireland, the travelers.
Yeah, the ones who go around doing remodeling on people's houses and ripping them off.
Yeah, they're not like, they pull grifts, and they're definitely a lot of crime going on throughout these families. Although this film barely touches on that.
No,
really.
not barely.
Barely. I mean, enough to say, we know. But they wanted to make
they're gypsies. That's all you need to know.
They wanted to make a film that these guys would sign off on letting them release first and foremost. Even though this behavior is definitely illegal, it was something they're still proud of. So he's at this thing, the McDonald's?
I think that's how you say it.
I don't know how
McDonald's.
You say it.
The McDonald's.
McDonald's?
I'll
take a Big Mac with cheese. It brings them out to this thing. You're like, okay, you think maybe this is one of these things like, oh, wow, it'd be so cool to get their problems out and it's over, shake hands, hey, we're okay till the next time thing. No! Shit just keeps getting worse. When you beat a guy's ass into the ground, that guy's just even more mad.
Oh, yeah. And this kind of like, it's kind of fascinating because this, in a weird way, predates YouTube as far as like you see kids beating the shit out on YouTube, getting the shit beaten out of them on YouTube. These guys were like, filming this stuff, and then right after these fights, they would get into a war of words, like while looking at the camera going, your family is shit, you're crap, you're all nothing but, they call them monkeys, they're like, you all are useless, and they would send off these tapes to the rival family, hey, watch this shit, and like, oh no, you didn't, and it's like, it's on, you and me, I'll call you, and we'll be having a battle of feast, and we'll take it to the top, and then they meet up in a parking lot and beat the shit out of each other.
Do you think these just started from those Clint Eastwood movies, Any Which Way But Loose?
I know,
do any of these guys travel around with an orangutan?
Well, it would be cooler if they did, but I mean, they do talk about like, and it takes a while because the guy filming it, you could tell. I'm like, okay, out of everyone they're filming here, it's like, man, none of these. I'm scared to even say this because I feel like they're going to find me and beat the shit out of me. But it's like none of these guys are like the most educated people in the world. I mean,
you don't say.
Because I mean, even the guy filming, it's like, well, can't you guys like sit down and like talk and solve your issues like with that. And the guy looked at him like, talk.
Well, the main guy that follows, even though it goes to the other two main families, the Joyces and the Nevins, he spends some time with them, and they're all pretty. It gets confusing because they're really
It really
similar.
does,
There's
yeah.
really no difference between these people, what they believe in, what they do. You know, it's. I guess the point of all this is to show how preposterous this is. It's a microcosm of the rest of the world, but it follows this guy James Quinn McDonough and his younger brother Michael are the two main guys. And James,
Wait, the lead singer of the Dewey Brothers?
shush.
Okay.
And James regularly goes, "All right, this is it. This is my the first fight in the movie. Like it takes place in 1997. He's like, this is the last time I'm fighting. I am not fighting again. I'm just done with this. I'm so tired of doing this. I got nothing left to prove." And yet he fights like 9 times.
And it always ends with the same way. He's like, I don't look for these fights.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not a fighting man. It's like, I think this is ridiculous. And you're like, because the thing is, you're like, okay, this guy, he's just, this is just the world he's living in, and you just accept it. But after a while, it's like, dude, why are you still doing this? Because he's like, it's nothing I'm proud of. I don't go looking for this. Like they proposed the challenge to me, so I just had to do it.
Yeah. And to make, to add insult to injury, they gather around at a bar after the fight is over because someone always videotapes it, and the whole town gathers to watch them fight on the videotape because you're not allowed to be there because they'll jump in.
They say the families aren't allowed to be there because they're terrified that it would start a huge gang war.
Yeah, straight up riot.
Okay, yeah.
So they have like judges that are from other families that are not related to these families whatsoever.
Impartial.
So they can be completely impartial. And and they actually, when you see them, they actually have rules. There's no headbutting, there's no there's no kicking. I mean, and looking at it, it's like, okay, it's kind of good that they have these rules there. But when you have rules, you assume these are probably professional, these guys kind of know what they're doing. But you watch it, you're like, oh man, this is just regular street fighting that I could. I saw these kind of fights when I was when I was going to high school or whatever. It's not that it's not that well organized, and you're just like, man, this is kind of it. Sure, it may be fun to watch the first time, but a series of these fights after a while, you're just like, oh man, this is kind of sad in a way, and it doesn't get interesting because all it is fighting, really, and it doesn't get interesting until you actually hear the women's point of view on it, where it's like, this is kind of sad that this is happening because we're all related. It's like that guy just beat up my uncle, and so and so is beating up my grandfather, or and they're all related. It's like, I don't understand why they do this, and and it's not good for the kids. Like the kids grow up into this rivalry, and they end up doing it too. And it's like, there's no point, and it's kind of embarrassing, and it's ridiculous. But the guys don't give a shit.
We actually watched that generational thing happen, where a guy who's just a kid when it starts ends up being a fighter, and sort of taking on the new mantle, while the guy who had started at the film, the James McDonough guy, becomes after all his talk of, we need to stop this fighting, I don't want to fight anymore, he ends up becoming a ref at other people's fights for this. And you're like, dude, I don't believe you.
So how is Christian Bale in this movie?
Right? You just wait. They'll make a fictionalized version of it. It's a matter of minutes at this point till someone announces
Christian Bale and Tom Hardy will be in it.
Right. Because this actually got a lot of buzz. It played at Fantastic Fest, but it was only one of a bunch of festivals it played at. And when we saw it there, the actual guy James McDonough showed up, and bare knuckle fought Tim League, the head of the
please.
I know. And we're all like, dude, there's no way that guy's oh, come on, man. Tim League,
It'd be like Robin fighting Bane.
Yeah, exactly. But they got him so drunk he could barely stand up.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So, there you go. He still won.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was saying.
This guy's pretty goddamn huge. But I didn't get to see it in the theater. But
they sent us a screener.
They sent us a screener. So when I watched the screener, I was actually prepared. I thought maybe this is like the history of bare knuckle fighting. But when you realize that, this is just somebody's home videos of their families beating the shit out of each other in the middle of the street. It was like, okay, this is interesting, but after a while, I was getting real tired of it. Because there's a point, even when the guy filming it, he was like, there's a point where he films these two old rivals. These are old men.
Yeah.
It looks like bum fights all of a sudden.
It does.
And he was like, there's a point, after filming that fight, I was done. It's like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is kind of sad.
And all those tapes sat around for years because he didn't know what to do with them, and he was kind of shamed that he had them.
Yeah.
Until finally someone talked him into putting them together. And
we live in the YouTube generation now. You sit on top of a gold mine, baby.
You can, in a way, tell that his heart isn't totally in it because there's no fanfare at all.
No, not at all.
There's not much in the way of, I mean, he's narrating it, but even so, it felt like this is the sort of thing that would have benefited from some more flashy editing brought into it, like adding some more outside stuff, talking to other people around the world that might have their own bare knuckle fighting things going on, compare and contrast, even openly doing, I mean, he's clearly trying to draw a line, like I said, that macrocosm, microcosm thing, but it needed to be less subtle. Because otherwise, you're, as Koho said, just watching a bunch of guys' home videos of them fighting each other.
Yeah, that's it. And as interesting as that could be to some people, after a while, it gets tiresome. It does become sad to watch. It's like, man. And you see these guys, it's like, the guy who always wants to stop fighting, the main guy in this, he's like, I don't want to be known for this. I don't want this to be my legacy. And I'm like, dude, look at how
then do something else.
Yeah, I know. It's like, look how old you are. And
as he says it into a camera.
Yeah, I know. He says it in the camera. But the only impression that I left with after watching this movie is like, you know what? All I can see is a bunch of fucking guys with a lot of testosterone bored to fucking death. Yeah. It's like, I don't know where the hell they're living, but obviously they don't have cable TV and they don't have a Walmart. So it's like they have, like, this is their entertainment. This is like their arena. These streets are their arena to keep going with this feud, which a lot of them don't even like really. It seemed to me it didn't. A lot of them don't even know why they're still fighting. A lot of them are like, "Well, this goes back generations and generations." But I mean, why are you guys still fighting? Like, what is this really over? What really happened?
Boredom.
And they're just like, we can't talk about that on film.
I know,
because honestly, they don't know. Yeah, you don't know.
Seriously, I mean,
just say it. Look, we're bored.
They need more sources of entertainment. That's obviously the problem throughout a lot of the world. I mean, if only John Lennon was here, he'd been like, "All we are saying, please give high-speed internet a chance."
And they would have beat the shit out of him. I would say it sounds like this town needs a multiplex, but that's just a room full of people talking during the movie.
And
easily. fighting. That'd be one theater you'd be afraid to say, "Shh."
I'd just be saying, "Let's get the fuck out of here."
I think they would stop the fucking movie and just have two old guys like beat the shit out of each other on that screen.
But like I said, there is something interesting here. It's definitely like I said, a slice of life that we're unfamiliar with. These are weird fucking people that they live their whole life that way, and that this is going on. I mean, this hasn't died down. Mm-hmm. This is
still going
exactly on. What's happening today
right now as we speak, Leon.
It's their culture. That's what they do. Mm-hmm. And in that level, it's interesting, but you're absolutely right, Coast, when you say it just goes on too long. Mm-hmm. After a while, you're like, give me something else.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
I get what you're trying to say. I get what you're trying to overlay on top of it. I get that you're saying, wow, this is such a mess. I can't, what's wrong with me that I enjoy filming this? I go, okay, yeah. All that is clear from the beginning. Where are you taking this? And the answer is sadly nowhere, really. So I'm going to give it a low matinee because, like I said, it is interesting. It's something I think everybody should see who's interested in documentaries, but it's not going to garner a huge crowd outside of the devoted documentary crowd.
Yeah, I would give it a rental, and I would only give it a rental because, I mean, it's for a matinee price. There's just nothing that really, because I was thinking about that too. I was like, maybe it should be matinee, but then again, I was like, well, no, because there's nothing, for me, there wasn't anything that warrants that. It's like you can easily watch this on YouTube and be satisfied. You get more satisfaction just watching one fight on YouTube and go, okay, that's cool.
Wow.
Watching a YouTube stream that never ends gets tiresome. And especially when, there is no, I mean.
Ballpark figure, how many fights are in it altogether?
I don't know. There's a lot that are referenced or you just see a few seconds of. Mm-hmm. I mean, I couldn't even tell you. There's like, as far as like seeing the full fight, probably somewhere between 7 and 9.
Yeah, about 7 and 9.
But those fights don't last long usually.
They don't.
Like there was one of the ones towards the end, like this big, they haven't fought each other in 15 years and now they're back, to fight each other again, and they both really hate each other. And that fight goes on reportedly for 2.5 hours. Like they fight till they just can't stand up anymore.
Damn.
And you only see little tiny bits of it.
And that's all you need to see. When you see the beginning and the end, you're like, okay, well, you don't. At the end of that movie, you don't feel like, oh man, I feel like I wanted to see the rest of that fight. You don't get that feeling because it's not like watching an athlete actually like, throw blows where you look at there's a technique there.
Right.
There is none of that. It's just
wild
sloppy.
swinging.
It's just wild, sloppy fighting in the street. So I mean, but there's no point. Honestly, that was a problem. That's why it's a rental.
That being said, I'd fight you, co-host.
Oh yeah,
because you don't have any dukes.
Oh yeah, well,
put up your fuck it. I just kick you.
That's why I throw Leon. That's why I throw Leon in front of me.
Oh no!
Co-host has a real steel body at home. He just plugs into.
Right.
That's right.
like Voltron. It all comes together.
And your afro is like some sort of sticky tar that drags you.
Tell
in.
Leon. Tell him what else I do, Leon. I don't need to talk. I don't get paid to talk.